Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Chef Vic Cuisine. Today we are making an apple tart. Now, are you ready to sink your teeth into a dessert that combines the sweet and tart flavors of apples with a buttery, flaky crust? If so, stay tuned to learn how to make this amazing apple tart. So, let's get started. Alright, so before we dive into the recipe, make sure you hit that like button to support the channel out. It really goes a long way in getting this video out to more people. So in the bowl of a food processor, we want to add in 1 1/4 cups worth of all-purpose flour. We're going to follow that up by adding 1/4 cups worth of powdered sugar and 3/4 teaspoons worth of salt. We want to pulse all that together until it's well combined. We're also going to need 1/2 cup's worth of cold, unsalted butter that we're going to cube down into smaller bits. This will help the blending process go smoother. And once we have the butter chopped up nicely, we want to add the cubed, unsalted butter to the processor and pulse it until the butter becomes smaller, and it should look something like this. Now, in a separate small bowl, we want to mix 1 egg yolk with 2 to 3 tablespoons worth of milk, mixing those together to create an egg milk mix. Now, while pulsing the food processor on low speed, we want to add in our egg milk mix a little bit at a time as we pulse it to allow it to combine with the rest of the dry mix. This will create at first a crumbly dough, which will clump together if pressed onto itself. So we want to transfer this dough to a lightly floured working surface and knead it gently until it forms into a dough ball. And now, using a lightly floured rolling pin, we're going to roll this dough ball into a 12-inch wide disc. And make sure you flip the dough every now and then to make sure it doesn't stick to your working surface. We're also going to need a standard 9-inch tart pan that we're going to spray with a non-stick cooking spray. And for ease of transfer, you want to carefully roll the dough disc onto your rolling pin and then transfer it onto your prepared tart pan. You can fold in some of the excess dough into the tart pan along the edges. And for the remaining amount of dough, you can just use a sharp knife or utility knife to cut away any excess pie crust that overhangs the pan. We're going to first place this tart into the freezer until it becomes solid, which should take about 45 minutes. And at this stage, we want to preheat our oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius. We're going to place parchment paper inside of the tart pan and add pie weights to it and transfer the tart pan onto a baking sheet. We're going to bake our tart crust for 15 minutes. And once it's baked, we want to remove it from the oven and remove the parchment paper as well as the pie weights. We can set this aside for now to allow it to cool. We're now going to move on to making the filling for our apple tart. At this stage, we want to turn the heat of our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius. And now in a small bowl, we want to whisk together 1/4 cup's worth of granulated white sugar with 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon that we're going to whisk together to create a cinnamon sugar mix. For this recipe, we're also going to need 4 medium-sized Honeycrisp apples that we're going to first peel and then dice. I like using my add-on to my KitchenAid to help with the peeling and dicing aspect of this, but feel free to do this by hand as well. It just saves a lot of time with this kitchen tool. And for this pie tart, we're going to aim for semicircle cuts out of our apples, just making sure that we get rid of any apple seeds that missed the coring process. So for filling the apple tart, we want to first start by adding a couple of dashes of ground nutmeg over the bottom of the crust. And then we're going to follow that by adding 1 tablespoon's worth of the cinnamon sugar mix we made earlier over top the nutmeg, evenly coating the bottom surface of the tart. Now we're going to arrange the apple slices in groups of 6 to 7 in the tart crust and push them slightly down and at an angle to fan out the slices. We're going to repeat this process, filling the tart crust with all our remaining apple slices. And in the nooks and crannies of the apple tart, you want to just chop up some smaller pieces and fit those in as well. We don't really want to see the bottom of the crust once we're done filling this apple tart. At this point, we're going to take 4 tablespoons worth of unsalted butter that we've melted and brush the tops of all the slices with this melted butter. I like pouring on a bit of the butter at a time and then using a brush to evenly spread it across each slice. And after we've buttered the apple slices, we want to sprinkle on the remaining cinnamon sugar mix over top all the apple slices. We're going to bake this tart for about 45 minutes or until the tart is golden brown and the apples are bubbling. Once it's baked, we want to remove it from the oven and begin to brush the top of the apple slices with melted apricot preserves. For this recipe, we're going to need 4 tablespoons worth of apricot preserves that you want to melt to allow it to easily flow, and do your best to remove some of the fruit pulp that may be remaining. These preserves will help seal the freshness of the apple slices on top, allowing this dish to last long enough to enjoy. And just like that, you've made an apple tart right at home. Each bite of this is bursting with flavor. The crust itself is light and airy and melts in your mouth with each bite, accompanied by those delicious cinnamon sugar flavored apple slices. The best thing about a tart pan is that we can remove the outer rim from it to expose that beautiful design that is created when using one of these pans. Here we want to take a sharp knife and create slices of our apple tart. This creates a big enough tart for 8 healthy portions of the apple tart itself. Dig in, and I hope you all really enjoy this. And when you do try this recipe at home, be sure to tag me at Chef Vic Cuisine or hashtag Chef Vic Cuisine so I can see your awesome takes on this dish. As always, this recipe and many more can be found in my cookbook, Chef Vic Cuisine Volume 4, Enhancing Your Inner Chef. And that's available on Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave a link to that in my description box. And feel free to click the pop-up on your screen for more information on that as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed learning how to make an apple tart. And if you did, be sure to hit that like button for me. It's one of the best ways to help the channel out. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button too to see more recipes just like this one. And sharing is caring, so if you enjoyed this recipe and think someone else will too, feel free to share this with all your family and friends. And stay tuned for next week where we keep the apple theme going for the fall and we're looking at creating these apple fritters. Really easy to make and a great breakfast option. Well, thank you all again so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this recipe. Be sure to subscribe to my channel to see more just like this one. YouTube thinks you'll like these videos, so let's see if they're right. And I'll catch you next time on another episode of Chef Vic Cuisine. And until then, peace.